Hey guys, welcome to the Gun Deity channel. I get asked a lot of the same questions in the shop, and I see them asked a lot online as well. So this series is going to be a series where I answer many of the questions that I hear a lot in the shop. This first video will be something that is probably the most commonly asked question in the shop from new buyers. That is the difference between a hammer-fired and a striker-fired pistol. Now, in general, neither of these are better or worse than the other, but they serve different purposes. As a Glock fanboy myself, I will tend to lean more towards striker-fired pistols over hammer-fired pistols. Now, Glock here was not the first striker-fired handgun, but it was the biggest commercial success of the mechanical system. The concept of a striker system is that instead of a hammer that is mechanically fused to the trigger that strikes the firing pin, pushing it into a primer on the ammo, it actually has what's considered called a striker, which is basically the firing pin has a spring on it and it's preloaded on the firearm, and when the trigger is released, it releases the striker right into the primer and sets off the round. Now this system is makes for a consistent trigger pull, as it has a set trigger pull weight to release the striker. In most striker fire systems, the striker is around 3/4 of the way cocked on the channel here. And then as you pull the trigger, it pulls the striker the remaining distance to release it. Now, the 3/4 cocked on the striker is a safety mechanism that is there for the striker not to be able to be released without the trigger being pulled. Just one of the many safety features to a striker pistol. Another one that is common on most modern striker fire pistols is what a lot of people call the trigger dingus. It's actually a trigger blade safety. Basically, let me reset this trigger here. Basically, if you notice in here, I can't see if you could see, there's a little wall right here behind the trigger. What that is it's designed so that way the trigger can't actually be pulled unless that trigger blade safety is depressed. It's a safety mechanism yet again, so that way the trigger can't be pulled without that. As you can see, it's got like a little wall right there that kind of prevents that trigger blade safety from being depressed. That's just one of the many safety features to a striker pistol. Another safety feature is what they call the safety plunger, which is located right here. That's located just above on a Glock. It's located just above the trigger, right above this little safety plunger depression here. So basically what happens is when the trigger's pulled, it pushes this safety plunger down, which removes the block that's in front of the striker here, so that way the striker can actually go through to the breech face and set off the round. So it basically acts as a wall between the striker channel, or between the striker itself and the round. So it's a physical barrier, and it's just there for safety features. Now, going back to the trigger blade safety. Now, this is common on most striker fire guns, but this is one of the main reasons why the SIG P320 had those recalls, is because they didn't have this system in there, and their triggers themselves were too heavy. So when the gun fell at a certain angle, the trigger would continue towards the rear of the trigger guard and would set off the round, which made it very unsafe for drop safety. These are just a few things. Now, all of these safety features that are built into the guns, now there's many others built into the trigger as well. There's a little channel here that for the trigger bar rides into to release the sear. There's many other safety features built into the gun itself. Now, but all of these do create a situation where it makes the trigger not the greatest, because it does have to bypass all these safeties in order to get there. Now, you can make the trigger better over time, but it does make the trigger subpar to something like the 1911. Now, 1911s are being a single action hammer fired gun. That means that the hammer has to go back in order for the trigger to be fired. These have some of the best triggers on the market. Now, that makes it the standard for almost all gun companies to try to imitate. The mechanism of a hammer-fired gun is fairly simple in single-action guns. It involves the hammer that can usually be physically seen on the firearm, and when cocked, is held in place by a spring that's located in the grip, and that held under spring tension until the sear releases it and allows that trigger or that hammer to fall forward, smacking the firing pin and allowing it to travel forward to the primer of the round, setting off the round and of course causing the bullet to reach its target. Now, another safety feature that's not located on 1911s per se, but it's located on a lot of revolvers and some modern pistols, is what's called a transfer bar. Basically what happens is, if you notice on the back of this 1911, there's your firing pin right there. What a transfer bar does is, your hammer is not designed to actually touch the firing pin on these types of guns. What happens is there is what's called a transfer bar, that when you pull the trigger, a bar slides up and puts itself in between the hammer and the firing pin, so that way the hammer strikes the transfer bar, which pushes into the firing pin and sets off the round. And what that really is there for is for drop safety. So that way, if you drop your firearm on a live round, you don't risk the chance of setting off the round. Another feature that a lot of hammer-fired semi-auto pistols have is basically they have what is called a safety plunger. Now, that's not found on all hammer-fired guns, and it's not found on all modern hammer-fired guns, but it is found on a lot of your modern hammer-fired guns, like your Beretta 92 and things like that. Basically, it acts the same as the safety plunger on the striker fire guns. It acts as a barrier between the firing pin and the round. So that way, when you would have to depress the trigger in order to set off the round. Now, a lot of 1911s won't have that. As you can see, there's no plunger inside of here. But your like Series 80s and further will have your safety plunger built into them. And what that does is it is a safety, but a lot of the 1911s bypass that because it hinders the trigger quality, because that is one more thing that the trigger has to do in order to initiate the contact of the firearm. Another feature that many hammer-fire guns have that 1911s don't typically have is a lot of guns are made in double action, which means that they cock the hammer while pulling the trigger. So that hammer cocks back while you're pulling that trigger. So a lot of times what people will do is carry it with the hammer down and set in that stage. which makes it for an inconsistent trigger because it adds weight to the very first shot in order to cock that hammer back to fire the round. But in semi-auto guns, the slide will come back, recock the firearm, and put you back in that single action mode, which makes a lesser trigger weight, which tends to compete with that inconsistency that a lot of people don't like with hammer-fired guns. Now, competition guns tend to remove that double action feature in a lot of their guns because they want that clean, crisp, light trigger pull that you can only get with a single action gun. As you can see, gun is unloaded. As you can see, that trigger pull is very light and clean and crisp. You only get that with single action guns. You can't really get it with a double action gun. You can get something close with a striker fire gun, but it's really hard in comparison to a hammer fired single action gun, mainly because the trigger is directly in contact with the sear and it sets off the hammer. With strikers, there's a lot of things that have to be bypassed in order to get to the sear. So you tend to see competition guns being in single action hammer fired guns. Now, both types of firearms can be used in sporting or defensive purposes. They're both used by the militaries and polices around the world. So both can be tweaked to fit whatever you need or want to use them for. So when people ask me which one's better, I will always respond the same. Neither is better than the other. Both do things better than the other do. I like striker fires for more carry guns because they are a little bit more safe to carry on a regular basis, while hammer fire guns tend to be a little bit more advanced for carry purposes. So what I always see in my shop is new gun owners, even though I like striker fire guns, new gun owners tend to lean towards hammer fire guns because of the fact that most hammer fire guns are going to have some type of manual safety. And a lot of new shooters like that security of a safety that you can't get with a striker fire gun in most cases. Now, that being said, more advanced shooters tend to lean more towards the striker fire guns for a carry purpose because they don't have a safety. They don't like that hindrance in that time of need. So you'll see a lot of beginner shooters start with a hammer fire gun, maybe not a 1911, but a hammer fire gun nonetheless, and then eventually move their way to a striker fire gun. So it's just a matter of preference. I will never tell anyone one's better than the other. So I will always recommend that any new shooter, go out there, shoot one of them. See what is more comfortable for you, what you feel more comfortable carrying, and then carry that. Don't rely on what other people tell you to do. So definitely try it out, see what you like, and then go from there. And then if you guys like this kind of content and enjoy learning new things, just enjoy firearm content, I'd like you to subscribe to my channel. And, if you've already subscribed to my channel, please hit the like button. Tell me what you like in the comments. Tell me if you find this content useful in any ways or, just enjoyable. Or if you have any points that I did not point out in this video, please feel free to do so. Other than that, I really enjoy making this content. I really enjoy showing people that are new to firearms or maybe not very experienced, new things about firearms. So I do plan on making more videos like this. So definitely subscribe to my channels. Wait to see what new content I come out with. I try to post twice a week, 3 times a week, if not more if I can. But yes, subscribe to my channel. It is Gun Deity. I'm also on all social media platforms. And yet again, choose the gun that fits you the best and run that. Get proficient with that. Till next time, this is Gun Deity.